I'm joined by LaChina Robinson, a former Division I athlete and award-winning ESPN and NBC sports basketball analyst, the founder of The Rise and the co-founder of Rising Media Stars. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Amanda. I'm excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you. All right, so we'll just jump right into a lightning round. These are supposed to be rapid fire, but you're welcome to add some explanation if you want to.
Okay,
Are you
sounds good.
ready?
I'm ready.
First one, WNBA Finals or NCAA Championship?
Definitely WNBA finals, and probably because I love a series between two teams and all the adjustments that happen in between games. And I've seen many more nail biters in WNBA finals than I have Final Four. So I'm going WNBA.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say last year, thinking back to the championship for women's, it was not a nail biter.
No, it was not.
Okay, sideline reporting or studio desk?
Actually, I'm gonna add in a seat. I'm adding in a chair, and it is my home place on the broadcast, and that is the analyst seat. I love being courtside, calling games as an analyst. I've done reporting, I've hosted, but definitely breaking down the X and O's courtside is my favorite.
Okay, so play-by-play analyst, right?
Yeah, I don't do the play-by-play now. That is a difficult job, but I'm the analyst, so we usually work together. And
The color
yeah,
analyst.
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Stats or storytelling?
This one is really hard, but I am going to say stats because as an analyst, a lot of my analysis and um, observations that I make about teams and players are based in statistics. I think numbers tell stories. However, I do also love the storytelling aspect. I'm a sociology major, and really I got into this to tell stories. So there's a piece of me in both, but if I had to pick, I would say in my current seat, it's definitely I love next level analytics.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense based on your previous answer too. Very much a numbers person, and like you
Mhm.
said, the stats do tell the story as well. Love
Yeah.
that. All right, underdog or dynasty?
I'm going underdog. I have had the opportunity to cover some dynasties, but I'm going. I love an underdog story. It's always just the best thing about sports is expect the unexpected.
Definitely. I feel like with basketball too, I don't know if I want to say more than other sports, but we do get like underdog wins quite frequently and they're always super exciting.
Yes.
If you could host a show with anyone past or present, who would it be? And this would be kind of like it could be a studio show, a podcast, any kind of show.
Robin Roberts. I don't even have to think twice about it. She's so comfortable in her own skin, and I know that she would bring out like parts of me that maybe I have never seen on camera. Just because of how engaging she is and how comfortable it is as she is talking to her interviewees. So I would want to be on set with Robin for sure.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. And she started off in sports, right? I know she's
Mhm.
on Good Morning America now, but I did
Wow.
see somewhere that she started as a sports broadcaster, analyst.
She did. Yeah, absolutely. She started off actually played college basketball and then went on. So she has a connection to sport through and through.
I love it. Okay. Last one for this lightning round. So finish this sentence. The next era of women's sports is
The next era of women's sports is legendary. I feel like we continue to raise the bar and rewrite history around women's sports. So just when we think we're surprised by what we're seeing, we go to a level historically that we think can't be beat, and then it is. So I think legendary is definitely the word that comes to mind for me.
all right. So now we're going to do a little bit of background, getting to know you, the guest. So we'll
Mhm.
start at the beginning with your relationship with basketball specifically. When did you first start playing basketball? When did it become a big part of your life? And kind of what did it mean to you in those early days of your life?
Yeah, I tried basketball for the first time in the 6th grade and hated it. My dad played, and I had 2 older sisters that played, and it wasn't until I was 14 years old that, I reached the height of 6'4", and everyone kept asking me, "Why don't you play basketball?" And I didn't really make the connection at that point between being tall and playing basketball. And my mother was big on education, not as much on sport, so I was very focused on my academics. I played the violin, but once someone mentioned to my mom that I could get a college scholarship, that was it. She was like, "We'll be there. What time to practice?" And my life really took off from there because as a teenage girl, I didn't feel like there were many places in the world that I fit. I mean, you're 6'4", and so you already feel out of place and you're getting teased, and all you want to do is fit in more than anything. And when I touched the basketball and stepped on the basketball court, I finally started to understand why I was made the way I was. That being tall had advantages. I also made friends playing basketball, found my voice, learned how to stretch and challenge and grow myself. And so the game really opened my eyes to everything that I could be as a girl and a young woman. And then fast forward to seeing the '96 Olympic team and seeing Lisa Leslie for the first time. And I was like, yeah, I wanna be like her. And, once you see her, you can be her. So from there, I just strive to be a great player, but also I wanted to be beautiful like Lisa and funny and charismatic and smart and all those things. And so I had a vision for what I could achieve. And ultimately, I did get a college scholarship. And so basketball was my vehicle to an education. It changed the trajectory of my life. I don't know that I would have gone to college and definitely not Wake Forest. Um, had I not played basketball. So it really transformed and changed my life in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I feel like stories like that are so important just because sports really can change someone's life, especially like you said, if you're able to get like a Division 1 scholarship. Obviously college is extremely expensive, so that's a big deal.
Yeah. It's a really big deal, and especially for my family, like, we would not have been able to afford it. I'm one of 16 children in a blended family and was the first college graduate of my siblings, and so, there was a lot of firsts, and it had everything to do with my involvement in sports.
One of 16 is crazy. Are you like on the younger end or
Insane.
the older end?
Well, I say blended family because my mother always wants me to make it clear that all those kids are not hers. My mom had 5 children, including me, 4 girls and a boy. My dad had 12 children, including me, 8 boys and 4 girls. So on my mom's side, I'm next to the oldest. On my dad's side, I'm 4th from the bottom. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I would say that that was a unique experience. Did you
Very.
enjoy having that many siblings, or was that kind of tough?
I enjoyed it. My dad, I would say, having the bulk of those kids, did a great job of making sure that we all got together every summer. Like, you can have siblings, because this has been my experience in some stretches of my life where you can have siblings but not really be as connected to them. But both of my parents made sure that I spent time with both sides of the family after they'd separated. And I knew all my siblings and we hung out, and it could be fun, right? Like being with
Yeah.
that many kids at one time. But also I'm glad I didn't have to be the parent of all those kids trying to take care of them all at once. Cause I'm like, how did you do bath time? How are you feeding all these kids? Like, I have a lot of questions, but no, it was great.
Yeah, I come from a very small family, so I always wondered what it was like, what it would be like to have like a huge, gigantic family. So that's really
Yeah,
interesting.
that's us. That's us.
All right. So you mentioned, and I mentioned in the introduction, you were a Division 1 athlete at
Oh,
Wake
yes.
Forest. So what was your experience as a Division 1 student athlete? And then if you had any advice for that version of LaChina, what advice would you give to her now?
Yeah. My experience as a student athlete was eye-opening, just to use that term again, quite honestly. Going to school away from home in a new environment. I did go to a predominantly white school after coming from a very diverse background in high school, and so I was learning things and meeting different types of people all the time. And um, they say that travel is the best education, and being a part of campus life and also traveling for our basketball games, just I got so much exposure to the different ways that people live and different places that I had never even imagined, and different ways of life, different economic levels, and different people from various backgrounds. And so sport for me was always about exposure, and learning. And my time at Wake Forest was great. It's a very small private school, about that time, probably 4,000 undergrad. And coming in, I was a part of a really big freshman class, did not think I was going to play, but I ended up starting my rookie year and being all ACC, and that's where I saw myself really grow into really who I am today, was kind of taking the opportunity that I had in front of me, even though it was challenging, like you had to make your mile time, you had to do all these things that I thought I was never gonna accomplish, and learning that I could push myself, that there was another limit, or there weren't limits to what I could do or achieve if I set my mind to it. Learning what mental toughness was, knowing how to push my body in instances of exhaustion, learning plays, going to class every day, time management. So it was a constant check in with self of, can we do this? Yes, we can. And having that inner dialogue with yourself, and just learning how to get the most out of yourself every day. But if I could go back and give myself some advice, it would probably be to expand my horizons on campus. I wish that I had been more involved in like student led groups and other like special interest groups on campus. I was very athlete, academics focused, and I just think I would have had a more well-rounded experience had I engaged more in campus life, but you don't feel like you have the time. You're at practice, and you're always tired, which looking back, I'm like, you could have done more. But I'm grateful for how being a student athlete really shaped who I am today.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point because when you are a student athlete, it already feels like you have so much on your plate. And when you're so young, you're like, how am I going to add to that? And then as you get older and you look back and you're like, oh, I definitely could have done more.
Well,
Um,
because as a student athlete, you're really responsible for your experiences outside of academics and sport. Like that growth, I always call it character, community, and career growth. Those three things should still be moving forward even as you're focused on academics and whatever your sport may be as a student athlete. And I do believe that campus has so many offerings and so many resources that help you grow in those three areas, but you got to kind of take that bull by the horns yourself. And that was something that I did not do, which actually led to some of the things that I'm involved in now with the Rise and Rising Media Stars, because I wanted younger women to be more intentional about growth in those three areas. And so I definitely wish I had taken that bull by the horns a little more.
yeah, kind of like multiple buckets, multiple hats, not just like, being pigeonholed into just an athlete,
Yeah.
but kind of just being more dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after college, I don't know if you went directly into sports broadcasting, but I believe it was shortly after college. What drew you specifically in the direction of broadcasting, and was that something you were pursuing prior to graduating college?
So, Amanda, you make me sound a lot more pulled together than I actually am. So when I was done with my playing career, I actually went into athletic administration. So I worked at the ACC, the conference office, and championships for a year. And
Okay.
then I went on to work at Georgia Tech for 6 years, excuse me, 7 years, after I was done with that internship. And my goal at that point was, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to stay close to sport. Like I loved my experience in basketball, in particular women's basketball, and the impact that the sport had had on my life. So I was like, I knew I want to stay close to it. Let me just see if I can get jobs in or around that and figure it out. Now, meanwhile, someone had introduced broadcasting as a possibility in the very beginning. Of course, I was like, no, that doesn't sound like something I want to do. We have to make it hard, right? Like Can't make it too
Exactly.
easy. So, but through that experience working behind the scenes in sports, I was blown away because I did not know everything that went into putting on a sport championship. I did not realize what everyone at the conference office did or what the day to day was like in an athletics department once I got to campus at Georgia Tech. And so, once again, so much learning. But staying around women's basketball in particular was like it's so awesome for me. And so I was in my late 20s when I had like a quarter life crisis where I was like, what am I doing? I'm on track to be an athletic director, which means I'm going to be sitting at a desk for the rest of my life. And I'm like 26, 27. And it started this introspective journey of asking myself questions that I always tell, especially women, to make sure you're asking yourselves along the way. And that is those check-ins of am I growing? What separates me from everyone else? Like, what is it I do well? How am I special? Am I passionate about the work that I'm waking up to do every day? Like those check-ins periodically have to happen. And I had enrolled in a program called the NCAA Leadership Institute. And through the Institute, they were prompting us to ask ourselves those questions, but hoping that we would grow in athletic administration. Instead, I asked myself those questions and was like, maybe I need to go into broadcasting. So, um, I was having this, quarter life crisis. Now I start to think, okay, what could I also be good at? What are my skills? I'm getting 360 feedback from people around me, like, hey, when I walk in the room, what do you see in me? And from all that feedback, I ended up considering broadcasting more seriously. And I remember working at Georgia Tech and they asked me to do the radio one day. And I was like, sure. The analyst was out and they were like, just step in and call a game. You know the game. I was like, sure. So I come in there, I'm bopping around in my khakis and eating popcorn and I put the headset on and I was like, oh, I could do this for free. Like that's how much fun it was. And so that was my job from then on out. And that's what I tell everyone that's looking or chasing your passion. Find that thing that you would do for free and then figure out how you can get paid to do it. And here I am.
I love that. Yeah, that's a very long journey, and I feel like oftentimes too, like, a lot of people see you and you've had a very long, successful career, obviously, but there's a lot behind the scenes and many years of hard work that a lot of people don't see, so that was very
There was a career before the career, Amanda, and I like to encourage people to pivot. I'm a pivot person. Whenever you realize that things are not aligned for you anymore in terms of your career, do something else. It's okay to change your mind.
definitely. Yeah, I after college, I stopped, like, sports weren't a part of my life anymore for, like, 10 years. And then, yeah, I kind of had a similar, like, "What am I doing?" moment, and when I sat down with myself, I was like, "I need to get back into sports," which is why I launched this podcast, and why we're
Oh,
here today.
I love it. Yes, yes, yes. Takes
But
courage, and you obviously have courage. So kudos
thank
to
you.
you.
I appreciate it, and you're a big inspiration to me as well, so I love following your social media account and the rise, and we're gonna get into the rise now and rising media stars as well. So you launched your own business called The Rise with LaChina. Can you tell us a little bit about it, why you started it, and what you hope to accomplish with it?
Yeah, so The Rise is a personal development and lifestyle platform for women. And it was inspired by the growth of women's sports, which is why it's called The Rise. As I watched what was happening with women's sports and the growth it was having, I realized that there was a blueprint and a mindset that could be applied to women in any field if they wanted to grow and really be unapologetic about their power and to demand their value the way that we've seen happen in women's sports. I mean, what we've seen happen has been incredible over the last few years. And I believe that there is a formula that we as women can use everywhere to lift our voices, to raise our value, to raise our power. And so that's really what I created the Rise to do, is to be a community space for women that want to rise up in every arena of life. And it's a digital platform. It's on all socials. We've got a website, but there are a lot of chapters coming up for the Rise. My hope is to start a podcast. I do want to have in-person events as well. There will be professional development offerings for women down the line, and so there are a number of things that I hope to accomplish. But it all comes back to the mission of helping women find their voice and find their best self, their best life. And this comes from really a few things for me. One is I've always enjoyed and benefited from professional development settings. And I believe that as women, we don't always step into those opportunities the way we should. And so I wanted to create those types of spaces for women to come in and network and to learn and to grow and to educate themselves, but to also have a educational track once they leave those moments, right? So, like, what is the continuing education that's helping you stick to some of those career goals or make those lifestyle changes? And so, because those moments have been so beneficial in my life, I wanted to create that for others. I also wanted a house for all the things that I love to do. Um, I mentioned, transitioning into broadcasting after leaving Georgia Tech. Well, I started a business at that point called Stretch Beyond, where I was helping student athletes with their character, career, and community development. So, along the same lines. And I wanted to continue to do the work of media training and consulting, but I really didn't have that kind of house where everything could live. It was like I was doing all of these one-off things. And so the Rise really encompasses all my passions and allows me to put all the work and passion in one place. And it all comes back to serving women.
Yeah, I love that. One of the first things I noticed about you is just you're so good at helping others believe in themselves, even if they don't see it yet. And you've had multiple of your mentees, of course, speak on this, which I think is really amazing. Because there's so many women that want to get into sports media or just sports in general, but it is highly competitive, very difficult industry. And I just think the guidance that you're providing, whether it's your one-on-one mentorship with a lot of women, or now your platform like the Rise, and then of course rising media stars as well. I think that's really amazing. And then also how you're providing community and support. So like even if someone decides I want to get into sports, it can be kind of a lonely trek. And so I think, having something like the Rise or Rising Media Stars, how you create a support system and community is super helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's the goal. So we're still working. The Rise is in its infancy. Rising Media Stars is we've had a few more years in developing that, but I'm excited about the impact that we can have.
Definitely. And speaking of Rising Media Stars is kind of like a small group mentorship program that you've been running for a couple of years, and I know you're about to expand it. So throughout the last, 5 or 6 years, I want to say you've helped amplify a lot of voices in broadcasting today. So I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you, what is the most surprising things your mentees have taught you over the years?
Ooh, I love that question.
This episode is sponsored by Rubaru Chai That Connects. Rubaru is a woman owned small batch chai company based out of Chicago. Rubaru means face to face in Southeast Asian culture. Chai gives us a reason to pause, to share stories, and to feel a little bit more connected to those around us. Their chai concentrate is a sugar free, caffeinated tea. It is smooth, aromatic, and offers a perfect balance of spices. You can order yours today at withrubaru.com.
My mentees have taught me courage. The things that I speak into them, I have to then live up to myself. So it's that constant reminder of like, I'm telling them, like, you can do this. This is well within your skill set. You're right there. I'm just breathing life into them. And then I find myself doubting myself in some area of life. And I'm like, LaChina. you know? So I've learned courage from them and the way that they have stepped into the biggest moments. And I don't say that meaning it has to be the biggest stage, but whatever that next challenge is for my mentees, I get such joy in watching them step into it. And that doesn't mean they have to crush it, but just the courage to try, just the courage to say yes, the courage to prepare. And so I have been inspired by them so much. I would also say that part of the courage that I learned from them is that this generation is built different. Like coming up for me was girls and women, this is what you have, be grateful for it, and that's the end. This generation is very unapologetic, and they don't mind asking for whatever it is they want or need, and I love seeing it, and I'm just so grateful for how they have breathed life into the generations, before them.
Yeah, I love that. And as you mentioned earlier, we're in a monumental, like very historic moment in women's sports. And it's kind of odd
Uh-huh.
to be living in it present time, but I try to think ahead and look back of everything that's happened since probably about 2023, right?
Yeah.
It's just a crazy time for women's basketball and then just women's sports in general.
Yeah, 100%.
So in your career, you've helped elevate voices that historically haven't always been centered in sports media. What does that type of representation mean to you?
Yeah, when I was coming through the ranks in broadcasting, there was Carolyn Peck, and then there was, um, the Cindy Brunsons, the Christy Winter Scotts, and the Robin Roberts. So there was like this generation that was a little ahead of me, and then you come to, like, my age group, there weren't very many of me around that same time that were coming up in the business, so it was very lonely, and I would say that about broadcasting in general was that, um, for women that looked like me, it was a lonely business because you were traveling by yourself. You often like didn't no one knew all the assignments you may have. I was working for like eight different networks at the time. And so it's a lonely journey because of the type of work you're doing, but it's also lonely because you don't see people that look like you. And so when I think about representation, I think about having people in front of that camera that represent the athletes on the field or on the court. It's important to have diverse storytelling. It's important to have people from diverse backgrounds that have a voice in and around sport. And I wanted to be a part of changing what I saw was a trend, at least in women's basketball at that time. I wanted to be able to turn on the television and see women that were younger than me coming through the pipeline covering a sport that I knew was predominantly Black. I mean, as a student athlete myself, the women that came to cover my games were not women of color. And so I didn't see that as a career path until I saw Robin Roberts, until I saw Carolyn Peck, until I saw, it just takes those moments. But I just wanted there to be more of an opportunity to see that representation in sports. And that's why I started my nonprofit Rising Media Stars is how can I prepare women coming after me on this journey to number 1, not be as lonely and have the community to support them, peer community, mentoring, tools, but also to change the face of sports broadcasting so that we are seeing more diverse women in that space.
And you've definitely accomplished that with Rising Media Stars, and like I mentioned earlier, all of the women that you've mentored that are, skyrocketing in the sports industry. It's very cool to see.
Thank you.
We're going to get into some more challenges within the sports industry and then also as a business owner. So we know the sports industry is very competitive and there's also a lot of long hours. So when
Mm.
you were first breaking into sports, I guess we'll say sports media was what was like is there one or two things that were like the most difficult for you when you first started out?
Yeah, breaking into sports media, the most difficult thing was being a woman of color and convincing decision makers that there should not just be one of us. Diversity felt like a check the box situation. When I first got into this field, I was actually told on an occasion that, okay, we've already got a woman of color, so we're good. And I'm like,
Wow.
why is there a limit there? And so that was something I wanted to erase in my time, is the thinking that if you have one diverse voice, you have enough, when it should be how many qualified diverse voices do we have instead of like the number. So that was probably the most difficult part, was feeling as though there was already a woman that looked like me in position and my chances were slim to none to get in there. The other thing was just convincing people that you should listen to women talk about sports. I mean, we still get all the comments of "Get back in the kitchen. Why are you talking about sports? And what do you know?" And every day you understand that your level of execution, of excellence, will determine whether or not someone listens to the next girl or the next woman that comes in wanting to cover sport. So there was a pressure there of knowing that, yes, I do want to open up doors for more girls and women, but also knowing that there was a misogynistic attitude that was already present, that whether or not I knew what I was talking about, it would not matter because I'm a
Right.
woman. And who wants to listen to women talk about sports? Well, come to find out, a lot of people want to listen to women talk about sports. And so you really just have to focus on the um, the audience that appreciates and values women, and tune out the rest of the noise. But those were the hardest things getting into this business. Was one, being a woman of color and believing that there was space for more than one of you, and two, um, you know, trying to convince everyone that women know what they're talking about when it comes to sports.
Yeah, definitely, and that's still obviously very much an issue. I think, like, one of the most common, like, things I get on my posts and everything from men would be like, "Oh, you don't know ball," or like, "Please stop talking about basketball."
Gosh, it's like you
Yeah,
don't know ball. Like you have never even. I'm 45 years old and would dust most of these guys right now in the comments if we played one on one. Like you don't know ball. Anyway,
exactly, and it's
it's
probably like they probably
frustrating.
didn't even make, like, their middle school team, and they just say that to, like, any woman who's talking about the sport.
Or they but got beat by a girl and they've never gotten over it. Like, let's get into
Yeah.
your life story because something hurt you.
Exactly. So you've talked about the importance of discomfort and growth a lot. Is there a specific moment in your career where being uncomfortable and kind of pushing through that directly influenced the direction of your career?
Yeah, my career really changed, where I think, wow, the most transformative moment in my broadcasting career was during the pandemic. The WNBA was one of the first back to play. I was working for ESPN as an analyst at that time, and because of all the rules with flying, I had to move to Connecticut for to cover the W during the most chaotic, crazy time in our country's history for my generation. Um, and it was definitely scary to think, LaChina, we don't know what's going on out here, but you're gonna go and cover basketball. But I did trust my employer to create the right environment. They had all the protocols and the safety and all that stuff, so that part was there. But then there was the racial reckoning that was also happening in our country at that time during the pandemic, that was being reflected in what the women of the WNBA were doing every day on the court. Whether it was Breonna Taylor, all the different stance they were taking, all the levels of advocacy that were happening as the pandemic was happening, as the season was happening in the bubble. And I am living in Connecticut. Now, I will add to that that I also was asked to host for the first time. because our numbers were limited on the people who could enter into the broadcast facility because of the pandemic, they asked me if I would jump into the host seat. I had not hosted before, and I said yes, of course, because whatever I could do to keep the coverage going, I was willing to do. Well, I was very uncomfortable as a host, had no idea what I was doing. But by the end of the summer, I had gained some confidence in a position that would take me then to Tokyo to cover the Olympics. I was hired because of my hosting by NBC. It would later put me on the desk for our first ever WNBA countdown season at ESPN, a platform that I had pitched and dreamed about. And here I was in the host seat. And now I get opportunities all the time as a host, and it has expanded my territory in the sport. In instances where there's already an analyst in the seat, I am now of value in another space as a host. But it all came from this turning point of a moment during the pandemic where I had to say yes to a number of things that I was very unsure about. I didn't know if I was going to be able to properly represent these women in the bubble who wanted a voice behind what was happening with the racial reckoning. I didn't know if I was going to be able to withstand all that was happening in our country as we were figuring out this incredible crisis that we were all going through at once. Like I didn't know if I would be a good host and be able to serve the way that they needed me to in that seat. And so, whew, by the grace of God, I'm a woman of faith. I was able to answer the call, and it changed my career, but it really started with the courage to say yes in a very uncomfortable situation.
So interesting too that you weren't originally a host and now it just led to all these opportunities. I just feel like the analyst position is harder, but and the host position's easier, but that could be a big misconception.
Yeah, yeah. You prepare differently for sure. Like analysts, you are learning absolutely everything you can about two teams. So you are
Mhm.
digging in on these two teams, their personnel, their playing style, their history, their, coaching staff, coaching philosophies, everything. Like you are really in on two things or two teams. When you sit in the host seat, you are covering more of a variety of topics, but maybe not as deep. So the way someone explained it to me is the difference is as a host, you have to know a little bit about a lot of things. As an analyst, you have to know everything about two teams. So the studying is very different. As a host, you don't carry as much of the talking or the analysis. It's more your job to kind of set everyone else up, where in the analyst seat, you are the one providing the color commentary, and it's the play-by-play who is, getting you to all the places. So definitely different roles, but I'm glad that I've learned the skill of both because it allows me to continue to grow as a broadcaster and to test my versatility and to challenge myself. Looking back, I needed a challenge. I had been sitting in the analyst seat and very comfortable there and had success for many years. And so little did I know I needed a shake up, and it was well worth the discomfort.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to, being dynamic, having multiple
Mhm.
positions on your resume, more opportunities can come your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Transitioning into being a business owner. The Rise is very new. I've followed along, but you've only launched it. It's been like a few months, correct?
Yeah, yeah, we launched originally back in September, but that was kinda like a, "Hey, guys, we're here," but we didn't start launching content until the 2026, so yeah.
Gotcha. What are some of the early struggles you've dealt with as a new business owner with The Rise?
Ooh, how long do
Just a
you
few.
have?
How
Oh
long do
my
you have?
goodness, Amanda. Oh my goodness. I have the learning curve has been huge for me, in figuring out how to run this kind of business. Everything I've done before, for the most part, has been connected to the game of basketball, where I, over time, whether administratively at Georgia Tech, from the conference standpoint at ACC, and in the broadcast booth, like I am very comfortable in women's basketball and in that space. Here I am now trying to figure out how to stand a business up in a medium that I have no expertise in, no knowledge, on how to run. And so, some of my biggest lessons have been around hiring. Definitely agree with something I think I hear very often, which is fire fast. Like, no, you kind of know when someone is a fit or a company is a fit or not. And I tend to be the give them grace girl. Like, oh, they'll figure it out. We'll get there. Just cut your losses and go on ahead in another direction. And my chief of staff, her name is Kiara. She's amazing. She is polar opposite of me. So right away, she's like, "We're out of here." Like she's ready to. She's got the scissors ready to go. I'm like, "No, wait, let's just give it a chance." So finding the right staff because I am an optimistic person. I'm a go-getter. And so like the more that I've learned about my personality in business, the more I'm like, I know my people, right? And just being okay leaning into the type of people I'm looking for. And not to say that everyone needs to be like me, but when it comes to things like work ethic and integrity and timeliness, all of those things like are really important. The other thing I've learned, and this is something that I have had to embrace in this chapter of being a business owner, is you have to be a risk taker. There's no way around it. There is absolutely no way around it. Like, I am a planner to the T. I like to know exactly what I'm doing, how much time I have, because I wanna set myself up for success. I heard Gabrielle Union say something the other day. Oh my gosh, I wish I had the quote. I think it was, "I live to be prepared," and she was talking about how she prepares for her roles in different areas, and so being a risk taker often involves things that aren't as calculated as I would like. And in business, you have to do it, right? Like you're figuring things out, you're betting on yourself, you're betting on this mission or whatever it is that you are putting your heart and your passion and your resources into. And so that has been quite the challenge for me of LaChina just jump out there. Like you can't think about this for another 30 days. A decision has to be made now. So like take a chance, but I've just learned a lot, even about how to use my voice. Like people believe that just because I work in media, it must be easy for me to create content. It is not. Like I struggle. I'm like, can I do that again? Like, what did And so now I'm just learning to go with, okay, it's fine. Did I make sense? Okay, post it, right? And so
Yeah.
I've had to really stretch myself and my communication skills into a different space. So I could go on and on about the number of things that I've learned and what this journey has been like. But what I will say is that I have enjoyed this because I know that I'm new, and so there's no pressure. In
Yeah.
broadcasting, if you ask me to do something, and I am immediately like, okay, can I do this? Like I immediately jump in, but I have some confidence. In business, it's like, if I don't, nobody's really gonna care because this is
It's
not
so
my space.
early. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm new. So I feel good about the runway that I have to make mistakes and to learn, and it's fun that way. There's no pressure. Like if the ride
Yeah.
doesn't take off, nobody's gonna care. Like they're gonna, oh, remember that thing what China did a few years ago? Oh yeah, that was cute. I
It
want it
will
to
take
work,
off.
right? But if it doesn't, it's like, thank goodness I still have the day job. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It'll take off. I mean, I'm a fan, so you have at least
Thank
one.
you. I appreciate it. Yes. And I always say that my mission is to like reach that one person. It's like, do you
Yeah.
really mean that, LaChina? And it's like, actually, I do. Like, I do want to change one person's life. It just would be nice if there was like one plus one plus one plus one. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. As long as we're reaching, at least a few people, I think
Yeah.
we've done our job. And yeah, I like
Exactly. And I've had to take my eyes off the numbers. That's the other thing.
Mhm.
It's like we can easily believe that we're not having impact because we're not viral. But the
Right.
truth is, like, what's really behind being viral? Are you having impact or is that just your reach? There's a difference to
Exactly.
me
Yeah.
between the number of people you're reaching and the number of people you're impacting. And I want to have deep, lasting impact on the lives of women. I do know that.
Yeah. Kind of impression versus conversion. of whatever you're
Yes.
trying to convert.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
that's a really good point, something to point out because we see a lot of things go viral, but like, what does it mean? And like, is
Yeah.
that really changing anyone's life? But yeah, I have definitely times where I post something and it's like three people like it, and I'm just like, well, okay, got to move on to the next thing.
I have this one post, I don't know when I'm gonna put it up, but basically I was like, I had to like my own post because nobody else liked it. So I was like, sometimes
I
you
always do
gotta be
that.
the first
Yeah,
person to like your own post. So
like
definitely did
comment.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. I like what you said too about how like it's still difficult even for someone like you to film content and edit it and post it because we all kind of have this idea of perfection and how it should be perfect. But I kind of like to follow the 80% rule. I'm like, as long as it's 80% to where I think it should be, like I'm just gonna post it and move on.
I like that. Okay, I might need to adopt that. I like that, Amanda. Yeah.
Thank you.
80%. I'm taking that, feeling that.
Yeah. All right. I only have a few more questions for you, so we're almost done here.
Yeah.
Um, we've talked a lot about the past and the present, so now we're going to get into the future.
Mhm.
When you think 10 years down the road, what impact would you like the rise and rising media stars to have?
Ooh. Um, the impact that I would like to have through the rise and rising media stars is just more women realizing their dream. I mean, once I got to a place in my career where I was like, I am literally doing all the things that I dreamed of doing, I just felt so accomplished and so happy. And then right after that, I was like, I want other women to feel this way. And that is my hope every day with these platforms is if I can make you just feel a little bit more confident, if I can help you with a little more courage, if I can give you a hack or a habit that gets you over the top of where you want to be. Like I needed those things on my journey. And when I got them, they felt like a warm hug, and so I want to give more women those moments throughout their life journey and their career so that they can ascend and achieve their dream the way I have. And yes, I have more dreams, but the places that I've been in my broadcasting career, I would have never imagined. But it really did come back to all those little moments of advice, of reminders when the journey got tough, stories, mentors, conversations, community. That is what gets us there. And I would just like to be even a small part of other women getting to their mountaintop.
Yeah, I really love that because it can be really difficult, when you have a dream to, pursue it and to
Mhm.
continue past all the obstacles and the doubts and all the difficulties of remaining true to your big vision and being able to kind of see it in your head before it's a reality. So I think a lot of people get stumped, so I try really hard to always go back to my intentions and my why, and just remember to keep pushing through even when it's extremely challenging and it feels like nothing's going your way.
Yep. Yep. You have to keep that vision. That's something I'm challenging myself to do with the rise, which is hard because I felt like there was such more of a clear path of success with broadcasting. It was like, okay, I want to do the NCAA tournament. Okay, I want to work the Final Four. Okay, I want to work clear path. With the rise, I'm having to carve out what success looks like because in reality, I just want to help people, but it still
Hmm.
needs to be a business. So there still
Right.
have to be goals set that allow the business aspect of it to thrive as we are helping people. And so reminding myself of what the vision is daily helps me stay grounded enough to then look at the business and say, okay, I want to help people, but what does that mean I have to be doing every day? And to your point, the minute you lose that vision of what you're trying to do, you're lost. Like you have to keep that in front of you at all times because that's what wakes you up every day.
Yeah, and also helps just it's a lot of hard work, obviously, and, like, in the beginning, you're not always really getting paid much, and so you're just kind of doing it for the love and the passion,
Yeah.
so just remaining focused on that and not getting lost.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, last question I got for you. So you're a big advocate for mental health, and the show's called Hoops and Healing. What are your top 3 things you've been focusing on now or recently to help create balance and peace in your life? I know you're very busy, you travel a lot, but I see you also post a lot of things about, creating balance in your life.
Yeah, I'm actually about to post something today about balance. Issa Rae was talking to Emma Grede, and she was talking about how she is just starting to focus on the personal aspect of her life after focusing on her career for so long. And I was like, girl, I feel you. Like, I must have had blinders on at one point in my life, and I was like, "Personal? I don't really, like, wasn't thinking about a family. My apartment looked like a hotel. Like, are you living or are you just staying here?" And so it made me feel really seen because I have struggled with that balance over the course of my life because I'm the kind of person that loves to compartmentalize. It's like when I'm all in on work, I'm all in on work. When I'm off, I am off. And so trying to integrate with the realization that we don't get to decide in those moments that we need to show up in our personal life, right? It could be for a family member, it could be like you have to be open and you have to create space in your life for life. And that's probably the biggest rule that I've learned, or a few things I'll share that I've done is one is I've just created more margins in my life, more blank space to do nothing, to connect with family, to check in with friends. I mean, my life used to be meeting, 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 travel, travel, travel. And I remember praying, at one point when I reached the point that I wanted to focus on my personal life, I was like asking God, okay, so where is my life partner? Like, what do I need to do? And he's like, well, where do you want me to put him? You have no space. When are you gonna go on a date? When are you gonna hang where are you gonna support him? And I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's a good question." So, creating more time in my life in between meetings, leaving days a few hours open every day, like, whatever that looks like. I'm trying to do more of that, managing my calendar. Also identifying things that just help my nervous system to relax, like photography. I have a Nikon. I love going outside in my neighborhood and just taking random pictures of things that I see that are beautiful. I'm an outdoor girl, and being in nature is where I connect with God and where I feel most powerful. So, photography has been something that I've picked up that's given me that feeling of self-care. And then also, like, spending money on your own self-care. Like, pay for that massage, get that facial, like, get that foot massage, whatever it may be that you feel like you need to feel relaxed or rejuvenated, like, spend some money on yourself. That would be something else that I've learned that I had to start doing.
So those are great. I love that you're getting into photography for fun. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've taken some pretty good pictures. I need to get back out there though. I need some more recent photos. So hopefully this spring I'll be able to get back out there again.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat. I've really enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you for having me, Amanda, and I can't wait to see the show.